Yo guys, my name is Feedback Gaming and I'm about to show you some of the cool things that they changed in Hearts of Iron 4 for Warlords, which I think is an amazing step in the right direction. And I have made a dedicated video to the Warlords that I released on the main channel. You might want to check that out. It's very, very good. And now with these recent changes, I thought I'd play them again. But it turns out with this current playstyle, it's still practically impossible to play as a Warlord. I mean, it's doable, but the challenge is so unbelievably high. You never get kind of a opportunity to get, I don't know, an advantage of all the players around you, I guess. Countries around you, I suppose. This is what you get now. This is it. The Warlord State, which gives you a little bit of manpower, which is good because you can't get cores. Attrition reduction is kind of nice, but not a biggie. Supply consumption is also kind of nice, but not really enough, 5%. And then you lose a bit of stability and lose a little bit of research. But, however, the big icing on top, the big but, is that if you ever go for these bottom focuses to end the struggle, you will lose this bottom modifier. So it's basically the idea of staying as a warlord forever, which is a really, 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 really cool playstyle. I think this is fucking amazing. I like this a lot. The issue I've found, though, from a few Let's Plays and little test runs, is you run into the problems. And in Hoi 4, you have several problems. Can we show these problems? So you either be bottlenecks on one of these. So this is a problem for a minor power, by the way, not a major power, because major powers don't seem to have this issue. I realize the music is incredibly loud. There we go. Probably want to drop the master volume. There we go. Yeah, so it usually has a problem with one of these things. So I'll think of a really random example. So you're playing as, let's say Denmark, or even any of the Scandinavian countries. You always have issues with manpower. The resources are actually okay, because look at the resources you've got as these said countries like Sweden and Norway. Actually, now I realize it. Denmark has no resources. I never even knew that. Oh my god, Denmark is basically one of the resource losers, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Factory wise, it's actually doing pretty good though. Yeah, oh, factory's so good. Oh yes, got factories. And supply situation is based. Look at the supply they've got. Amazing. So as an example here, just as a random example, this is Denmark as an example. You have challenges, and your challenges are going to be manpower and resources as Denmark. However, if you're playing as, let's say, Sweden, you wouldn't have issues with resources or factory or supply. So basically, you're basically a modern nation that can basically play a normal game of Hoi 4. But however, if you're playing as a minor power, you have more challenges. And for instance, let's have an example. Guanzi Clique. Guanzi Clique, go away. Has issues with supply. Why? Because it basically has no supply depots. They did add an extra supply depot here, which I'm very thankful for. But unfortunately, the supply situation is still pretty dire. And there's another one here as well. Maybe, I'm not sure. Anyway, factory situation is bad. Oh, actually, it's not that bad. Oh my god. What? Oh, okay, never mind. I'm totally wrong about that. They're actually okay for factories. Resource-wise, they're actually okay too. And manpower, they're China. Let's have the manpower pool is really amazing too. So for the most part, as a minor power, you're actually okay. I suppose there is a few other resources I have to take into account as well. There's PP as well. I should really have that as an extra resource as well. PP. And the Warlords have a massive issues with PP because they suffer from these penalties. The corruption, which loses you 10% political power. And then top it off as well, you also lose some of a base amount of political power per day with ineffective bureaucracy. And stability also reduces the amount of political power you gain per day too by a percentage amount, which is very small anyway, but just get an FYI. So it gives an example of a political situation that's in your country. I suppose you could think of a fourth enemy. You could think of like neighbors nearby who will declare war on you, for instance, which obviously is a massive issue for Denmark, a massive issue for, let's say, I don't know, Ethiopia, that no longer exists. I wonder why. Someone may have invaded them. Anyway, we're coming back to the Warlord thing now. So I use this as an example to illustrate the problems that this nation, Zai Bai Sanma, experiences. It's one of the harder warlords anyway. Probably the hardest is Shaanxi, but Yunnan's also quite hard as well. Anyway, summarize really quickly. You don't have many issues with manpower. That's probably the best thing you've got going on. Manpower is really good because you're China and you have usually a lot of high manpower states. However, it's not the most manpower intensive state of China because it's more eastward for obvious reasons. Factory-wise, your factories suck. Your resource-wise, your resources suck, your political power situation sucks, and your supply situation sucks. And as you can see here, I had to build a new supply depot here by using the decision and then connect it up because you've only got one supply depot to the far west of you. And then what I did is execute a bunch of border raids. You can't do border raids with horses because they suffer from too big of terrain penalties. So if you're jumping over into a mountain or over a river, your penalties are going to be brutal. And then we top it off as well, with those penalties stacked with the supply penalties, you will never win a border conflict. And winning border conflicts full stop and under good circumstances is next to impossible anyway. Hence the reason why that wasn't a good idea, and the reason why it never actually worked. Okay. All right. Are we ready to move on to the next part now? Okay. So under these circumstances, with everything I've talked about, I have thought of 2 possible solutions to the Warlords, okay? Actually, before I continue, I just want to talk about the Warlord changes. So you can strengthen the Warlords here to gain an extra bonus, which removes some of the political power penalties, and you reduce supply consumption by a set amount. Then you got the option to either go for the horse path, which is really awesome, by the way. 10% attack is really cool. Or you go for the mountain path, which is really bad too, because remember, you're a warlord. You've not got a lot of cores other than the states you start with. So a core attack bonus just feels kind of pointless unless you're losing. I suppose you want to re-grab your territory back. So to be fair, these bonuses are very situational and not as effective to fix the situation that you've got with Zaibai Sanma. I'm using Zaibai Sanma as the example, but Yunnan, Shaanxi, all the other warlords apart from Guanzi Click apply to a certain degree. Anyway, here are the 2 solutions. Either one, you have a no supply warlord. Now, Paradox probably won't be for this because this is a completely different playstyle. You're basically eliminating supply for a said nation under circumstances where your supply costs go very high. So in this circumstance, I just use this as an example. This state, if you go press F4, the supply in this region is 48. Can you see that? 48. 48. That's very, 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 very low. As an example, there's 1 horse has 36 supply. So there can only be 2 horses in this province before supply issues kick in, which is a penalty to attack, defend, breakthrough, and all your other stats for that division. So as you can imagine, you can't really stack that many divisions in that said region. So the solution here would either reduce supply absolutely astronomically by 90% in this circumstance, and the net result of that would be you can actually play a strategy as a warlord where you don't actually need supply, which feels really fun and refreshing, because then you're playing as a nation that doesn't have to be focused too heavily on supply, but you've still got the bottlenecks of manpower, factories, bad terrain, low PP, and border conflicts being incredibly difficult to resolve because of the RNG factors in it. So you've still got massive challenges to deal with. And it'd be kind of cool if you stack that with big stability penalties, for instance, as a way of trading for supply for something else, if you catch my drift. Alternatively, you can basically play the original Hoi 4 mechanics and have an option 2, where supply depots are buildable, but you need a bigger penalty than 10%. So this one has 10% construction. And to give an example why 10% is not enough, I will show you. If we go into here, and we have here reorganize the railway system, which increases the supply construction by 300%. 300% construction speed, which you probably think that's a massive amount, right? No, it's not. So I give an example here. We'll actually build a supply depot here in a region that you'll need it. Fair enough. I don't know why you'd ever be here, but here we go. And this supply depot will be completed in 2 years' time. Yeah, just less than 2 months. 2 years. 22 months, we'll say. 22 months. You can see that? You can see the text complete. Well, then, if you go for this decision, it's brought it down to March 1939. So now it's 6 months. So it's gone from almost 2 years to 6 months, which is fantastic, by the way. I like that this exists. However, the downside is that 10% off of 2 years is probably only a few months. Hence the reason why I think long-term economic planning needs to be buffed significantly more. So here's my solution. My solution would be to give a 100% construction bonus, which is still pretty big, but which you can stack with, on top of that, with the railway system, which only lasts for 4 months. And it also lasts for 6 months, this one. So the idea behind it is you can stack the 2 modifiers, but they're both temporary. And then at that point, you could build supply depots throughout the entirety of your nation and actually have a decent supply network to actually use. But the challenges would be, as a warlord, is when you break out your main core territory, building supply depots is still going to be difficult, because both of these modifiers, this one that I suggest, as well as this one, are temporary and you can never use them again. Can you kind of get what I'm saying from this? Can you see what I'm going with this? Do you see what I'm going? So it's either basically you make a new game mode which basically a Warlords don't have supply, which I think is the most based option. Or option 2, make supply depots build fast for a temporary period, which it feels more in line with the Hoi 4 mechanics, but is less interesting and less exciting than potentially something that can be a whole new game style, which is so... I wish Paradox would be a little bit more adventurous. I understand why it might break existing game mechanics, but I think this is way more exciting and makes an interesting twist on the game by letting you play a specifically different playstyle with a different kind of mechanics. It's kind of like in CK2 when you would play as a feudal lord compared to playing as a steppe horde. Is it a horde? Yeah, horde versus lord. Horde lord. When I said that, it sounded wrong. It's because they sound very similar. Yeah, horde versus a lord. In this case, you're playing as the horde compared to if you play a normal nation, you're playing as a lord. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Anyway, I think this is a really good change. I think it's really refreshing that you've got like a play style that restricts you, but also gives you the ability to play differently. However, I don't think it goes far enough. So basically, here's Dave saying, go further, push harder, go all the way. I believe in you. No, but seriously though, I like where this is going, and I'd like other nations to play a different set style as well by completely turning the game mechanics on their head, because I think that would be totally fun. Also, don't forget to check out Feedback Gaming. I have a link below the video in question where I play as the Warlords with the old system, and play as the Guanzi clique, which you can play unbelievably broken with that by playing with the game mechanics. Check out that video because I think you'd really enjoy it. The link is in the description below. The link is in the description below. The link is in the description below. I love you. Do you love me? I don't care. I still love you. Bye-bye.